Okay guys, this is video 1 on conics. Now we don't have a lot of time in lessons to get through this, so I thought I'd make a little video on this in case you're stuck. Now later on you're going to come across this idea of completing a square, so I thought I'd just go through it with you. Let's just make sure we understand what's going on. A plus B all squared is going to become pretty quickly and straightforwardly, I hope you'll see, is A squared plus 2AB plus B squared. Now that should be quite familiar with you. So if I have another one, let's do something really straightforward like x plus 6 all squared. Then what you're going to end up with is obviously x squared. Now I'm going to write this a little bit different. Plus 2 lots of 6x plus 6 squared, or in other words 36. I'm sure you can see that, which means that if I do it the other way round, so if I say, all right, okay, I've got x squared plus, let's go 30x, and that's all I've got. If I want to complete a square like that, well, I know that that's 2 lots of 15x. Okay, so that means that I know over here what I really want is going to be x plus 15 all squared. But the problem is what that's going to do is that's going to give me an additional 225 on the end, isn't it? So in order to complete the square, I'm going to have to add on 225. That's the only way I could make it. So that was what was needed to complete the square. Okay, so let's just move forward a little bit. So if I told you that x squared plus 12x equals 50, yes, you could say x squared plus 12x minus 50 equals 0. Yeah, that would work. But let's just look at this for a minute. That's twice 6x. So this is going to be x plus 6 squared. Now, in order to complete this square, what I really needed to do, let's just put that to one side for a second. Let's just leave that there. Okay, what I need to do is say, oh, right, well, I'm going to have a 36 on the end. So if only it looked like this. Oh, please. If it was that, then that would become that really easily. So I'm going to add 36, which means that that becomes 86. And it works because now I can say, oh, great. So x plus 6 squared equals 86. Now, doing that bit there, that's called completing the square because it allows me to complete a square number. At which point, if you were to solve this, then x plus 6 all squared equals 86. You just square root 86, so your answer would be negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 86. But that's not where we're going, okay? The key idea is that did you spot that this was twice 6x, so therefore that's going to be 6 in there. So in order to complete, oh, I wish I had 36, and I added 36 to both sides. Okay, that's completing the square. That's what it is. So if you look at this one, again, a little bit more complicated. All right, well, how am I going to deal with that one? Well, if I had this as x, so this is what I tend to look at myself, is I tend to go, all right, well, it's x plus b all squared, because when I multiply that out, I'm going to get x squared plus 2bx, but I need a plus b squared. So in order to complete the square, I need to add to both sides a b squared. So now what I have is x squared plus 2bx plus b squared equals 81 plus b squared. Now I know that hasn't moved us forward at all. In fact, it doesn't make it any easier. But it does actually just get the idea about how complete the square works, because now I can now write this as x plus b all squared equals 81 plus b squared. Okay, and again, doesn't actually move us forward, but you just got to get this idea of the fact that the complete the square bit was to add b squared. So let's move it forward again. Now let's look at this one. Now the problem is that I've got an x squared minus 6x, and I've got a y squared plus 8y, and I've got a negative 24. Lots of ways to look at this, but I'm going to say, hang on a minute, I can see in here, and I tend to just do this bit in my head, but you can do it, I think. That's going to be x minus 3 all squared, because if I do x minus 3 all squared, that's going to give me my x squared minus 6x. But in order to complete the square, therefore, I need to have a plus 9 on the end. So I'm now going to say, right, I need an additional plus 9. So let's add on 9. Let's add on 9. And so now what I'm left with, what I've currently got is x squared minus 6x. Watch, I'm just going to put plus 9 there, which I know looks a bit odd, but just trust me on this one. Excuse me. 8y minus 24 now equals 9. Now I'm going to look at this bit here and say, well, actually that would be really useful if that was really y plus 4. all squared. But if it's y plus 4, then I need an additional 16. So now I'm going to add 16 to both sides. And so now what I've got is x squared minus 6x plus 9. That was the completed square for x, plus y squared, plus 8y plus 16. There's the completed square for y, minus the 24. Be careful, you can't just ignore it. It is there. Equals 25. Well, that's really cool, because now I know that this really is actually x minus 3 all squared. That's what that all becomes. Quite straightforward. This one becomes y plus 4 all squared minus 24 equals 25. So come on, let's do a really easy piece of jiggery-pokery maths. X minus 3 all squared plus y plus 4 all squared equals 49. Obviously add it on. Come on, guys. Now, what's really cool about that is that we can draw that graph. That's a really easy graph. That is a circle. Center 3, negative 4. Radius equals 7. And that's why we complete a square, because we start with something really horrible, and then we actually end up with a graph that we can deal with. Okay, so that's what we're after. So the classical question you're going to get is something like this: x squared plus y squared. Oh, by the way, I lifted this out of the book. X squared plus y squared minus 6x plus 2y plus 6 equals 0. What is the center of the circle, and what is its radius? So now we're going to say, the first thing I always do is I go x squared. Now there's more than one way of doing this, guys. All right, so don't panic if you get a bit stuck, but this is the way I like to do it. Minus 6x, that's the x bit, plus y squared plus 2y, and I tend to say that equals negative 6, because now what I've got is I've got a square here and a square here, and I sort it out there. Now look, so I know immediately that that's going to be really, if only I had x squared minus 6x, so we know that's going to be x minus 3. So again, here's your plus 9. Cool. All right, so I'm going to need an additional 9 here to compensate for my square. And then I've got y squared plus 2y, so that's going to give me plus y squared plus 2y, so that means half of that is 1, so that's 1. So that's plus 1. And now what I've done is I've added on an additional 9 and an additional 1, that's 10, so that gives me a 4 over here. Okay, so in total I added 10, and in total I've added 10. And so now what I have, very quickly, and I wouldn't write it any more than this now, I go, right, okay, I know that that is x minus 3 squared plus y minus 1, plus 1, sorry, squared equals 4. So now what's the center of the circle? 3, negative 1. What's the radius? 2. Be careful, the radius is not 4, it's 2. Okay, so let's answer the question. Always a good idea, I think. So it's a circle. You can draw it if you like, excuse me, but I think it's easier to just go circle, center, 3, negative 1, radius 2. Okay, and that's basically the method to complete the square. So just to briefly recap, okay, what we needed to do was identify half of this. So that's going to be x minus 3. What number do I need in order to be able to do that? That's what I was looking for here. There is a nice, easily factorizable x thingy-jiggy. I'm not feeling too good, so I can't remember what the word for it is. And there we go. So we've got that becomes that, that becomes that. In order to create from here to here, I needed to add on 9 and add on 1. So that was adding on 10. That's where the 10 comes from. And Bob's your uncle. And that's how you complete a square in order to find the formula for a circle. Cheers!